E como último keynote do dia, mas não menos importante, eu gostaria de convidar ao palco o CEO global da empresa e cofundador da Liferay, Bryan Cheung.
Also, just wanted to say thank you to Pedro and Paolo. You guys are rock stars, and it's really exciting to have speakers of your caliber here at our event. Well, I wanted to close the day to have one more perspective about digital transformation, this crazy buzzword that we've heard over and over again, not only here at this event, but probably flooding your email inboxes and all over the industry news. And as a vendor who has been wanting to support digital transformation, obviously I've thought about this a lot, our company's thought about it a lot, and we really thought that it boils down to one very important thing, and that's what I want to share with you today. Digital transformation can be a scary thing. If you were here last year, you may remember that I was talking about it's much, much bigger than just e-commerce, and I think Fernando talked about that this morning as well, and yet e-commerce itself is a big deal. Billions of dollars already spent through 2014 in the US alone, and yet this is still only 6% of all of the retail revenue in the US. And yet there is this huge possibility of failure for all the reasons that Fernando talked about this morning, not addressing issues of culture, not having the right leadership team in place, putting walls around your digital initiatives and not letting it fully transform the way that your business starts to mix the online and offline experiences of your companies. The New York Times has been going in this direction of digital transformation. Their new CEO, Mark Thompson, has been very, very strong in this, and it's a scary time for them. Their Q3 earnings report, they went from a profit of $9.4 million in Q3 2015 to this year only earning $400,000. And I would hate to be the CEO in charge of that transition, right? But at the same time, the market rewarded him with a 2% rise in the share price after those earnings were reported. And so the market understands that this is something that that company and every company needs to go through. At Liferay, we do tend to attract technical people. I'm sure many of you consider yourselves technical people. And when you think about digital transformation, when you hear about all of the different opportunities, you may have the wrong idea. You might think, oh, I get to play with drones and Bluetooth beacons, and I get to buy more software and put things on the cloud. And of course, technology is a very important part of transformation, but it isn't the main thing, right? Others of you as technologists might be kind of sitting back and saying, oh, those business guys, they always have these buzzwords. Before it was engagement. Before that it was, e-everything. This is going to pass too. And yet, if you take that approach, you may miss out on a great opportunity. And what I mean by that is, I think digital transformation is the first time that both sides, the business and the technology, are realizing that you need to work together. And what does that mean for your organization? It means that instead of seeing IT, instead of seeing the CIO as someone who just needs to keep costs down, let's consolidate those software subscriptions, or let's reuse as many servers as possible through virtualization. Now they're saying, hey, IT, we want to do this crazy new idea. We want to completely change the way that we serve our customers. How are we going to do that? How is technology going to enable us to fulfill that strategy? At Liferay, we've been trying to define this term digital transformation, and we've actually found ourselves having a hard time as well. I don't expect you to read all that, but this is simply to say that there are a lot of nuances and there's a lot going on there. But I personally think that what it all comes down to is, how can our technology enable the business to give customers what they want. Really simple, right? Just give customers what they want, and I think technology is going to make that easier and easier for us to do. Well, as it turns out, sometimes we're not that interested in giving customers what they want, right? On the bottom left, we have what our companies offer to our customers today, and on the top right is what they really want. Sometimes they know they want it, sometimes they don't. None of us knew we wanted these crazy touchable phones until Steve Jobs had that brilliant innovation back in 2007. But that gap between what we get and what we want as customers is going to be bridged through technology. So I've mentioned that there are a lot of things that keep us from delivering on customer expectations. Let me go through a few examples. We've all heard that in 2016 and 2017, customer expectations are immense. They're huge. They have never been higher than ever before, and this is for many reasons. It's because of things like Facebook and Apple devices being so easy to use. It's because, I don't know, we grew up as a millennial generation and we were used to getting everything that I want right now exactly for me. But for whatever reason, this is what customers expect, and it can be very daunting. And again, what we actually offer is very, very far from that, and we want to get up to that mountain of customer expectations, right? And a lot of times we think, if we just had the right technology to get up that mountain of expectations, maybe we could deliver. But we don't. We don't have the latest and greatest software. We're not on the cloud. We don't have our mobile app yet. What are we going to do, right? Meanwhile, competitors are coming in and they're saying, we're going to beat you to meeting those expectations. We've got much better technology, and we're going to reach those customers, and we're going to take them away from you, right? And so we've framed this problem in our minds as a technology problem. But one of the things I think is actually true is that it's not a problem of technology. A lot of times the technology is already available. You may remember from this morning, Fernando showed you a video where when you run out of detergent, you run out of coffee, you simply push a button, and then Amazon Dash will reorder your coffee or your detergent for you. And so a lot of times the technology is there, but our way of thinking or our business model is the one that's out of date. The example of Netflix, we all know about it, but I don't know if we knew that Blockbuster actually considered a direct streaming business to customers. It was actually a very, very, very small part of their overall revenue mix. But they were afraid that that new business model was going to eat into their main business model, which was renting DVDs through brick and mortar stores. And because of that fear, because of that inability to change, that unwillingness to respond to change, you may remember the ape photo from Fernando's morning presentation. That's really what killed Blockbuster, right? It wasn't the technology, it was already there for them. The other thing that sometimes prevents us from meeting those customer expectations are all kinds of barriers. It could be culture, it could be industry regulations, it could be political realities that you have to deal with. And so even though you want to reach your customers' expectations, you can't. As I was giving this talk in the European markets, I found that a lot of them don't have this basic concept of mobile check deposits. So in the US, I think this is an interesting thing because on the one hand, the US is one of the very few countries, I think, where we still actually write paper checks and hand it to people. In most of the rest of the world now, you do electronic transfers, you have a PIN code, and you do it all online, right? So in that sense, many of the European countries and here in South America are more advanced than the US. But for the check deposit, that still has to happen sometimes because maybe your grandmother or your landlord prefers to get a piece of paper. You still have to take that piece of paper and take it to the bank. Well, in the US, you can actually just take a photo with your mobile phone of the front and the back of the check, and then basically the bank will consider that as good as giving them the physical paper. Well, in the UK and in France, apparently this is not possible, except that now in the UK, the laws have changed, and starting from October of next year, they're actually going to accept that the image of the check is as good as the original. So this is an example where it's really the legal and the regulatory barriers that are keeping back that transformation and not the technology itself. Now, let's be really honest. Sometimes giving customers what they want is actually against the interests of our business. I won't make you raise your hand to admit that in this room, but sometimes it's the fact that your company has some kind of a proprietary advantage that you're actually able to do business. Good example of this is the cable industry in the US, in Europe, and many other countries. How you get access to high-quality television programming is through these cable companies who have sort of a monopoly on the transmission of the programming to your homes through the cable boxes, right? One of those companies in France is called Numericable, and their main competitor is Canal+. So these two companies, they have a stranglehold on the market, and they justify that by saying, we are the only ones who have the rights to see Premier League football or boxing events, all kinds of sports and other kinds of programming that you can only get from their channels. Well, this year, Altice actually won the rights to broadcast UK football away from Canal+. So Canal+, they were justifying the fact that their monthly fees were so high by offering these exclusive events. But Altice stole it away from them, right? So this is a typical cable company. They've got their monthly fee. They've got hundreds of channels, but you really, really probably just want to watch 2 or 3 of them at most, right? And so what's happening? Well, that proprietary advantage is actually being eliminated by other companies that are using technology to challenge those business model monopolies. In the case of the cable business, HBO, which is a producer of quality cable programming in the US, they're actually now using direct streaming over the internet to reach their customers and to bypass the cable operator and to offer all of this for $15 a month rather than $35, $45, or $50 a month. Okay, so those are some of the hindrances, and if you notice a theme, a lot of those hindrances come from within our own companies. It's our unwillingness to change, it's our proprietary advantages, or it's being hindered by some of the legacies of our industries. So now I want to talk about what kind of technology do you need to partner with in order to achieve digital transformation? At Liferay, we are the first to admit that our platform is not going to be a magic silver bullet that gets you from being a traditional company to a digital company. By no means. First of all, for all the reasons that we've been saying all day long, it's not primarily a technology issue, right? And then second of all, I believe that it takes the right mix of technologies and partnerships in order to achieve your transformation strategy. However, in the midst of all of that, we are a vendor and we do want to be part of your story, and we realize that we also need to change in order to help you achieve those goals. So how are we changing? Well, first of all, Liferay is a portal vendor, and we've achieved quite a bit of success in this market. You've all seen this box many times. Maybe you showed it to your boss, or maybe somebody showed it to you before you chose to explore Liferay. And this is great for us. We're very happy about this. We're proud of what we've accomplished, but we also realize that this is an achievement in what is increasingly an older market, is the portal market. I want to explain to you how Liferay sees our market changing and how we think that's going to affect you and your technology decisions. So here we are in the portal market up there on the right. We've always been closely related to the content management system market. These are two very key technologies that most companies have needed, but traditionally they were acquired to support the goals of enterprise IT. And if you're in enterprise IT, what are the things that you're worried about? Keeping things safe and secure, making sure that the right people have the right access to the right systems, and retaining control, making sure that no one adds something they're not supposed to, no one deletes things they're not supposed to, that no one sees things that they're not supposed to. So these systems were really designed not to be a hindrance, but really to put a check on the business departments that were creating content, that were giving access to back-end systems, that were presenting invoices and things to customers and so forth. Well, over the last 5 to 10 years, this balance of priorities has really shifted. It used to be that business was satisfied with kind of falling in line with IT's rules and regulations, but then they started to realize that these systems offered a unique opportunity to actually engage with customers, with partners, and employees. And as that priority shifted from the IT side of security and control to saying, let's actually use technology to drive revenue or to reduce costs by providing self-service avenues for customers, the market responded to that. And it wasn't just Gartner and Forrester and the analysts, but the vendors, they all started to change the way they talked about their technology. On the CMS side, you started to see vendors repositioning as web experience management. On the portal side, we didn't see this as much, but there was talk of becoming user experience platforms. And the goal of this, beyond just a marketing, was just to say to sales, marketing, and customer service, hey, we understand that these systems are important for you, that they are ways to reach the people that you serve, and we want to start to change our technology's focus and mindset to meet those needs. So this was, I think, the beginning of something good. Now, there was one problem. Because these products were always kind of two separate products, what they did was they kind of designed around different stages of the customer lifecycle. You had your content management systems driving websites that were really used for marketing to prospective customers or to returning customers, but still in the stage of buying more stuff, kind of being influenced and that sort of thing. And then on this side, you had the portal, which was supporting ongoing customer relationships, dealing with renewals, paying bills, getting invoices, getting questions to answers about your services. But oftentimes, these two systems weren't really talking to each other. Let me give you an example from Liferay's own situation. We have a lot of customers, many of you may be here today. They have a subscription for our software, and part of that subscription means you can email or call our support anytime and basically say, hey, we have this problem. But sometimes the more technical customers we have, they don't want to just wait around for support to get back to them. So they actually go to our developer community and they look for the answers themselves. They go to our forums, they read old blog posts, and they look for the answers. And sometimes they find them. And yet our support team over here on the customer portal has no idea that that same customer was over on the forums looking for those answers. And if they knew what that customer was doing over here, that they had already tried steps 2, 3, and 4, that they had already kind of looked at someone's blog that said, WebSphere compatibility requires this and that, they might give a more intelligent answer to that question once they finally respond to it, right? So we've created these silos of experience. The website's over here, the customer portal's over here, and they're not talking to each other. So that's one problem. Here's the second problem. We still have, in a lot of organizations, a situation where IT and business are enemies. Business wants to do all this crazy stuff. IT is like, hey, CEO keeps taking away my budget, and I can't afford all that stuff, And by the way, you're making a complete mess out of my identity management. Please stop. And so they have these two very important parts of the business fighting against each other rather than working together, right? And I've already said that digital transformation means that you have to get the two sides to work together. What's the worst thing that can happen in this situation? Well, business gets tired of all the rules, and so they go off and they find all these one-off SaaS providers. They get a digital agency to build a mobile app. Maybe they build a few landing pages for marketing. And it's great because it gets results now and it gives you results quickly, but it leaves a big mess behind. And guess what? While all of these departments were fighting and while we were creating all of these systems separately, the customer experience is actually pretty terrible. It seems like you're talking to 7 different companies rather than talking to one. So this is the situation that we're trying to solve. This is what we're trying to address with the Liferay digital experience platform. Instead of creating these silos and pitting the two departments against each other, we want to build a platform that has joint ownership across all of the departments so that they can work together and to leverage that technology to support their transformation initiatives. We want to build a platform that also addresses the full life cycle. So it's not just prospects on websites here and customers on portals here, but that whole relationship is a single journey. And finally, we want to find ways where even if those touch points are separate, even if you have, let's say, a brick and mortar store and a .com and a separate mobile app, that there's still a way to connect the dots and to understand what the customer is experiencing across all of those silos. So we've had some great feedback from analysts about our direction. One thing that was notable is that it seems like we're one of the few vendors who are talking about that entire customer lifecycle. We also heard from one of our analysts at Gartner that they think that it's the right move and it's the right time for us to do this. So we're very excited, but we're also the very first to admit that it is a process and we are still getting there. So I want to close by just telling you what our high-level vision is for DXP and what the principles are that guide the evolution of the product into the future. So better end-to-end experience. This is something that I've mentioned many times, but essentially what I mean is that instead of the old Liferay vision of use us as a platform for building all of these different applications, we want to say use the platform to understand how all of these things are working together to support that journey. And even if you're building things that are employee-facing or partner-facing, there are ways that those can support that customer experience across all those touch points. The other is that we want to help you prepare for a future that you can't really expect or anticipate. And this seems really vague, so I wanted to give you an example to try to illustrate what we want to help you with. So I want to go into the retail space a little bit and talk about what digital transformation might look like if you are a brick and mortar shop selling clothes and things like that. A lot of what we've tried to do over the last 5 years has been around marketing. This is a very typical thing that your marketing department probably wants to do. They want to get customers to sign up for a newsletter so that you can email the heck out of them. I've signed up for a few different emails over the last 6 months, and I get a new email every single day. And every 3 to 6 months, I go through my inbox and I unsubscribe. I spend about an hour just to unsubscribe from things. And that's probably the experience of a lot of us who are on the consumer side. And yet, when we put on our digital marketing hat, we think that this is a good idea, right? So this is not what I'm talking about. And yet, I think what this illustrates is that a lot of retail companies, they haven't seen the future yet. They're still thinking in terms of the past, and they're still thinking about what Fernando called a digital upgrade. Instead of sending the coupons through the mail, let's send them through email, right? That's just a digital upgrade. Meanwhile, there's a company in the US that is doing something truly different. I wanted to show you just a few photos of these customers of this company and how happy they are. And what these are personal blogs that the customers of this company create when every month they receive the product from that company. And I bet a lot of us would kill to have this kind of customer engagement for our companies. This lady, what she does is she reviews each of the shipments she receives, and now she's on, I think, number 49. And every time she receives a shipment, she writes this huge blog, takes all these photos, writes all this stuff about it. And if you do a quick internet search, you will find thousands of customers doing this very thing. I want you to notice two things about this. First of all, I'm not a fashion guru, but to me, I would say that the lady in the photo and what she's wearing, it's a little bit daring, I would say. That I wouldn't expect someone that looks like this to try to be as trendy or stylish as she's being, right? And the other thing is that, she's not a model, she's just a very ordinary looking person, but she's also very happy, and happy enough to post photos of herself on the internet using this service for the whole world to see. And I bet she had no idea that I would use this photo and present it to 300 people this morning, right? So this company is called Stitch Fix, and while they are in this fashion industry, what I think is that they're really in the business of delighting customers. So here's how it works. A lot of these women, they are moms, they have 3 kids, they live in a suburb in the US, and they're not really around a lot of, new fashionable stores. And so what Stitch Fix does is they have a website, and they have you fill out a profile of your style, things you like, things you don't like, and they actually have human stylists on the other end. They get that profile, that human stylist says, I think this person might like these 3 things, these are safe options. I'm gonna pick one that's a little bit more daring, and then I'm gonna pick one that's like totally outrageous, right? They put that all in a box, it gets shipped to the customer, and the customer is just waiting for that box to arrive, right? Because to be honest, there isn't a lot of exciting things going on in their lives, and when they get that box, they're very, very happy, right? So they open the box, they try it on, they take all these photos, and they decide what they want to keep, and they decide what to send back. And it's a very, very simple model. It doesn't use a lot of high-tech technology, but it changes the entire experience of shopping. I don't know if you've done a lot of shopping. I remember when I was a kid, I went with my mom. We went during the sale, and there's like a long rack like this, and you have to look through the rack. And then you finally find something you like, and it's like size extra, extra, extra large, and so you put it back. And at some point you're like, oh, I've put so much time into this, I just want to get a good deal on something. So you find something in your size that's a good price, and maybe it's a little bit weird. You buy it, and then 3 months later you don't ever wear it, right? So that's the shopping experience for a lot of people, right? And Stitch Fix is completely transforming that. Now, I said that they aren't using any technology, but that's not entirely true. So when they get those 5 things, and they pick 3 and maybe send 2 of them back, they then get the box back from that customer, and they have an algorithm. And so there's this big smart machine, and it says, okay, article number 1 was blue with stripes, and it was like, very slim fit and all this stuff. She liked that one. Article number 5 was polka dots, it was this color, blah, 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 blah. She didn't like that one. So they take all of that data, they then update the style profile, and the next month, when that human stylist is getting ready to send the next box, the human stylist gets that feedback from the algorithm. So you have this really cool thing where you get some of the human aspects, the subjective fashion sense of the stylist, but then you also get this very cold and rational thing where big data analysis is helping that stylist to make better choices for the customer. And hopefully, the longer they use the service, the better they get at actually predicting what that customer wants, right? So this business model is completely different from how do I get a big shipment of things that were made in Mexico, distribute it to all the stores across the US? How do I manage inventory and when do I put things on sale? What should that sale price is? It's a completely different business model, right? And if you are in this industry, you may not have any way of anticipating that something like Stitch Fix or any other kind of disruptor is going to happen, right? So our platform, we, again, can't tell you what your business is going to become, but we can design our platform to be as flexible and quick to respond to change as possible so that when you need to, completely change your business model, we can support you the best that we know how. Okay, the second principle that we think is very important is a lot of digital that's gone on until now has really been on the surface level. It's been about mobile, it's been about digital advertising, it's been about emails and things like that. But one thing that the industry is realizing, and one thing that's important for Liferay, is that you have to go much deeper than that. If you've got the greatest website in the world, right? And actually, this was a real story of a startup called Zenefits in the US, was that they claimed to be this digital business that was transforming the insurance industry. They had this form on the front of their website, and you would fill it out. And they said that an advanced algorithm would figure out which benefits were good for your company. They actually had humans on the other side print those out and do everything manually, right? They had a great digital experience on the front end, but their operations were completely manual. And Liferay, as a portal heritage technology, as a vendor that has done integration and business process and connecting systems together for many years, we think we are well positioned to support a transformation that involves both the customer experience and operational excellence. This is one of the biggest problems that a lot of customers, a lot of companies are facing in terms of improving their digital customer experience, is that really boring stuff. How do you make the systems talk to each other so that the things we promise to the customers on the front end are fulfilled on the back end? So I want to close with a couple of kind of ways to think about how you might use technology like ours to achieve this customer experience excellence. At Liferay, we're starting to talk about this more, but we think that you need to combine the experience and the operations, like I said. I want to walk you through an example. So let's say, again, that you're in the retail industry. You have a very traditional website, and you realize that you're missing out on mobile. Hopefully, most of us have already gone through that step, right? So whether it's a mobile responsive website or a mobile app, your very first step is, I want to be able to reach my customers from the palm of their hands. So you enable that mobile app, and it's great, right? Well, you wanted to do that really quickly, and so you forgot to kind of think about customer data, right? So now you have customer data from your mobile stuff, and you have customer data from the web. How are you going to use that data to understand your customers? Okay, I need to switch to the back-end side. I need to think about operations and get all of that data talking to each other, right? That's not something your customer really cares about, to be honest, but it's really important for you, right? So you get all of that data into a single pool. Maybe you start to look into machine learning and some other things, and you realize that by looking at what your customers are doing on your mobile and web channels, you can start to personalize offers to them. And so now that you've got all that data, you're able to say to customer one, hey, we want to give you a special offer on this item because you've expressed interest in it before, and so forth, right? And so customers are really happy because they don't have to spend as much time on your website or your mobile app. They start to buy more things from you. Well, now you're getting all these orders flooding into your warehouse, and you realize that the fact that your website and your mobile app isn't talking to your fulfillment center systems is a big problem, because with your low volume of sales before, your people in the factory could kind of handle all of the incoming demand, but now it's just really hard. And so, okay, we're going back to the back end, we're going back to operations, we're going to get those systems talking together, right? So I wanted to give you a little kind of a tool to evaluate these different initiatives in your digital transformation. And I think there are 3 axes you need to consider. What is the impact to the customer experience of this initiative? The second is, what is the impact on our operations? Is it going to make things more streamlined logistically so that you can delight your customers with the efficiency of your operations? And then finally, how much effort is it going to take you? How quickly can you achieve this initiative? And then not just do it once, but measure the results and do it again. So in that example of that we just went through in the fashion industry, hopefully your platform will do things like make it really easy to build your mobile app, right? Notice that the effort bar is really short there, but the experience impact is really high, right? Hopefully later on, when you're doing things like automating your fulfillment, that's going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to have a huge impact, so it's worth doing, right? And one of the things your platform should do for you, and one of the things Liferay wants to do for you, is shorten those bars as much as possible so that your risk is lower in terms of the impact and the success that you have. Okay, so last thing before we break for the reception, why Liferay? I hope that by spending time with our people and listening to me, listening to Fernando and many of the others, you can get a sense of what kind of company we are. I want to give you some concrete things and some more subjective things that I hope will make you want to work with us as a vendor who partners with you in your transformation. Fernando mentioned in the morning that we have a single product portfolio and that we haven't acquired any of our technology. And that's an important point to consider. The other thing that I want to say is, what is the character of the people that led to this behavior? Because I don't think it's the fact that we've never acquired anything that's important. It's what's important to us that means that we never came across a technology we were willing to acquire. One is that our engineers are engineers. They, almost to a fault sometimes, care more about the technology than the business. And so it's a very emotional thing for them. Some of the most influential people in our company, in fact, most of them, I would say, they've been here since 2000, 2004. Even before the company was started, they were members of our open source community. And they chose Liferay because they believed in the technology, right? And so a lot of vendors acquire technology only with the business mindset. Who are your customers? Does it fill a niche that we need? Can we then use those customers to cross-sell to each other, right? But at Liferay, we've always taken the technology very seriously. And that means that you can be pretty sure that everything we build, it works well together. The other thing is open source. Open source isn't really as much of a buzzword as it was before. It's not as trendy, but I still think it's very important, in fact, vital to your transformation story. One of the things about open source is, of course, the innovation, the quality of the software, and so forth. But the other is the interoperability, getting systems to work together, making it easy for older things, talking to newer things, talking to things on premise, talking to things in the cloud. And of course, a lot of proprietary vendors have come a long way in terms of adhering to standards that achieve some of those purposes. But with open source, you have a guarantee that at the end of the day, if you need to go into the code to make those things talk to each other, then you can. And again, this isn't really just about the technology, but it's really about if you're going to really achieve that ultimate customer experience, sometimes doing that plumbing is vitally important. And finally, I just want to put maybe the human face to it. This is a company picture from 2 years ago. This is when we were about 400 or 500 people. Now we're about 700 people. Many of you have known us throughout the years, from when we were just 3 guys in Brazil to now we've got, I think 60, 70 people throughout Latin America. I hope that what you've experienced through all of those years is that the character and quality of our people have not changed. Liferay as a company, we want to be here to help you be better at what you do. We want to be here to provide value to you. We are not here to make a quick buck and to be sold off to Oracle or IBM. I think you know that. We are still a private company. We still have no investors. And we are still, I think, the same people that you began to work with 3, 4, 5 years ago. And we're not the smartest people, either in this room or in the industry. But I hope you know that we are earnest and we try our hardest. And even if we don't have everything right today, we want to listen to what you have to say and to get it right with you. And so we want to be a vendor that partners with you, not one that has all the answers, but can help you arrive at the right answers in the course of our relationship. So as we kind of close for the day, please get the chance to get to know me, get to know the Liferay staff, talk to us, find out who we are, and whether we are the right partner for you. Thank you so much for being here, for your generous time and attention. We wouldn't be here without your support, so thank you very much.